One of the pieces of legislation that you referenced in there that you were a co-sponsor of was a piece of legislation that would define a fetus or a woman's child, an unborn baby, as a human being, and vest that human inside the woman's stomach with the womb with the same rights and privileges as you and I have, as you and I enjoy. If your position prevails and abortion is criminalized, what should the penalty be for a doctor who performs an abortion or a woman who has an abortion?
Well, I think that it would be equivalent to murder. And I don't know if I would want to research that before I would lay specifically out what the penalties would be.
But
I would want to take a look at that.
You do believe it's murder, that if somebody gets stabbed in front of Pizza Hut right now, that the culprit in that crime is guilty of something that would be equivalent to a doctor performing an abortion?
No.
So it's a different kind of murder then?
I would want to take a look at that and make sure that I completely walked through where I live right now. I'm not going to give an answer to that right now without thoroughly looking through that and make sure that I'm looking at both sides of the law. So I would not enter into that.
If you're strongly pro-life, why haven't you thought about that? Because that's the conclusion, that's the end game of what you've been working for a good part of your political life, is the criminalization of abortion. And you haven't given any thought to what kind of penalty the woman's going to suffer or the doctor will endure?
Well, I think that it would, I think that I don't know if it needs to be the death penalty. Is that what you're asking?
It could be, I don't know, do you want to give them a ticket or do you want to electrocute them? It's your choice. You're running for office, not me.
I think that we would take a look and make sure that the punishment met the crime, and it would depend on the level of crime that was received. So
okay.
I would want to be sure to take a look at that before I give offer and comment to that issue.
On the issue, you also brought up the fact that you're pro-family, which is sort of code language for being for a marriage between one man and one woman, sanctifying that as the sort of the law of the land in Iowa. Right now, it is not the law of the land in Iowa. How has gay marriage hurt Iowa so far? I mean, it's been in effect for about a year and 3 or 4 months. How have homosexuals who are married hurt this state? What are they doing to Iowa right now that's troubling to you?
Well, I believe that the definition of marriage is between one man and one woman in a religious aspect. That is my belief. I have stated that. I always have believed that. We can take a look at civil unions as other options that meaning that I would be in favor of looking at. But the bottom line is, this is an extremely important issue, and I believe that Iowans have the right to speak out on that, and they have the right to weigh in on what they feel is the definition of marriage. So I believe that it should be allowed to go to a vote, and that people should have a say in that. And I don't think we should be afraid of that.
So as a citizen,
21 other states, I believe it is, have done that, or have allowed citizens to vote on that, so I think that they should have the opportunity.
As you're a citizen of Iowa, so you'd be allowed to vote on such a referendum or such a measure as well. How would you vote?
I believe that the definition of marriage is between one man and one woman, and that's how I would vote to amend the Constitution to define marriage as between one man and one woman.
Does gay marriage hurt Iowa at all? Why even deal with the issue right now? Are we suffering any negative consequences as a state because we have lesbians and gay men who are now married?
I believe that, again, that when you talk about marriage from a religious aspect, my belief that it needs to be defined as between one man and one woman, and they can do civil unions. I think we get to some of the same place that they want to with that, but that's what I believe, and that's what I would fight for, and I believe it needs to, we need to allow it to go to people who have their way in.
So do you think homosexuality is evil?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that that is my position, and I believe that people have a right to have a voice in this very important issue.
Is homosexuality wrong? What's your general thought on homosexuality?
I believe that the definition of marriage is a religious civil union between a man and a woman.
Do you have any thoughts on whether somebody is born gay or whether there's somebody who's gay can change? Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, that's sort of at the root of this debate because you know why. What's your philosophy? What's your opinion? Your thoughts on that? You think it's an unfair question?
I don't think it's an unfair question. where I can play a role and where I have a role to play is just to simply, I believe, talk about what my belief is, and then to allow the people to weigh in on that. And that's what I think my role is. I don't know if I need to go out there and try to persuade the electorate to do one thing or the other, but I believe that everybody has a right to be heard on this issue. And so my role in that is to try to pass legislation that would give them that right, and look at other alternatives, like a civil union or other options that may be available. But right now, my role is to allow, to work to pass legislation that allows people to come on that. And I hate to keep saying that over and over and over, but again, I don't know if government needs to, I don't need to stand here and define and tell everybody what they need to think or what they should do. I should do what I can to give people the opportunity to speak out and see what happens, and I guess that's the role that I tried to play in that.
Several bloggers, both.
One last question.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're in a hurry.
Okay, several bloggers, both liberal and conservative, have drawn analogies between you and Sarah Palin. Do you embrace those analogies, or do those offend you, or what's your thought on that?
Well, everybody has their right to draw whatever analogy they want. I mean, I'm an individual. I'm Kim Reynolds.
Do you admire her? Do you admire Sarah Palin?
Well, I admire her for what she's done. I think she did some positive things as governor of Alaska, and I admire her for stepping up and running for office. I admire anybody that has the courage and the strength to run for office. It's not easy. You know, it impacts your personal life, your family. They have to play a big role in that. And, you know, a lot of things are said about you, so you have to be somewhat of a strong individual to step into that role and believe in public service and believe in helping people in the state that you represent. So I admire her for doing that, you know, and I admire her for being engaged and trying to, you know, represent the people. But I'm Kim Reynolds. I'm who I am. I, you know, come from a small community, was born in rural Iowa, and worked through as county treasurer, ran for the state senate, and tried to give back to the citizens in my district as much as I can. And that's who I am.